We have here a bird's eye view of the divisions set up for an attack on Hougoumont by the French forces here in front of us. They're all from the 2nd Corps. The commander is there, Viel, and none of them have been committed yet, which means that they are, the commander's there, the units are all waiting, they cannot move into attack at present. We have on this side the 9th Division, and on this side the 6th Division, and they're divided into two brigades. There's one brigade here, another brigade here, so that's the 1st and 2nd of the 9th, and on here we have the 1st. In fact, the 1st is quite a large brigade, and then there's the 2nd brigade here. These are light troops, and I think the 2nd line are as well. There's some light troops here. These ones can break down into skirmish formations. They can break themselves completely down into skirmish formations, which is going to be quite useful in moving through this obstructed terrain around Hougoumont, the orchard, the walled garden, etc. There's also, we can see abatis, which are marked by the same green lines as hedges are. I just wanted initially to give you kind of like this kind of bird's eye view. So this is what the French see. Essentially, each skirmisher is 100 men. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's nearly 1,000 men facing them here. Another 400 back here, with 100 actually within Hougoumont itself, and another 300 stretched out there. Then, if we raise ourselves up a bit, we get a bit more of a view of the rest of the Allied forces. So back here we have General Hill of the 2nd Division of the Allied forces, and also we have Dupleix from the King's German Legion. There's also some of their skirmishers are arrayed there, which is actually the edge of Les Saintes. It seems to me a bit odd that they're there, but essentially I've played this scenario just once, just now, but the last few days, and they were quite useful to bring in quickly as kind of flanking cover, possible reinforcements. But it seems odd to me that they would be taken from Les Saintes. Be that as it may, it's within the scenario possibilities. So here essentially we have, I can't remember the exact details, hang on. Okay, yes, so essentially we have 4 brigades worth, smaller than the French brigades, as you can see. There's the King's German Legion Brigade, and with a horse artillery attached. Then we have 2 units here from the 4th Division. So that's the 2nd Brigade, and then here we have Cook of the 1st Division, and the 1st Brigade of the 1st Division, commanded by Bing. There's 2 guards battalions, and then we have Maitland of the 1st Brigade with another 2 guards battalions in it. You can see 8 strength points, 9 and 9, they're quite strong. The French go up to 5 strength points. However, they do have 1 unit each already detached, or one strength point each already detached. So I'll just replace these commanders here. Now all 4 of these allied brigades are committed. Now that's very important in this game, because what that means I will tell you in a minute. I'll just sort of finish this quick look. I'm going to turn it around so we get a look from the allied camp, so we can see the lighter areas are valleys, and we've got this main road running down here and these secondary roads running off. We can see that these ones are arrayed up. This is part of the sort of the main ridge. I believe that's the road to Brussels. So the Anglo-Allied line continues kind of in that direction. Over in this corner, you can see we have these. We've got some artillery here and 2 horse artillery here. There's another King's German Legion horse artillery over here. So these are pointed to go down the road if necessary, and these little blue type markers are to indicate that no unit in this scenario is allowed to move away outside 8 hexes from Hougoumont. So you can be outside and move towards it, but once you're within that region, you cannot move away out. I'm not sure if that means that once you're routed, you cannot go back in. It might just be voluntary movement. But so that's just so you can see that means that we don't have great scope for manoeuvre around like that. These units have to move into there, and then you can move freely once within that. So presumably there's things happening here which will preclude free movement around there. And again, I think we have to assume that there's cavalry squadrons and that guarding these flanks, and so there's not free movement there. This is the essentially the introductory scenario. There's no cavalry, and just a few units, as you can see. So that's the Allied view. It looks quite daunting what they have against them, considering that all you can see here of the Allied are small skirmish units. That's their main force. But you can see these are in this defensive terrain, and the skirmishers move and quite freely around that. And this is what I was talking about, the committed. Each side has an army morale. 70 points for the French, 65 for the Allied in the case of this scenario. Now, there's 20 turns, starting at the 11 turn, which is, what time is that? I think it's something like 10:45, 11:45 in the morning. I'm going to have to stop soon because my battery's going to conk out. But at every hour turn, you have to record how many brigades have been committed, and you subtract that from your army morale. So there's 5 occurrences of that before the scenario ends. You can see what that means is that if the Allies, if they retain 4 committed brigades, they will lose 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 of their army morale, bring it to 45, just for having them all in the action from the start. Then every strength point lost, you are going to lose a point of this. And in the previous game I played, you can see my tallies of strength points lost here. So I made a few mistakes in the game, but essentially, like at the 10th turn, this was how many each side had lost in strength points. That was committed, but I made a mistake in my calculations there. And then at the end of the game, where's my game end totals? Yes, so it was here. At the end of the game, French had lost 46 strength points, and the Allied 37, and that I finished that on game turn 12 because one of them became demoralised. I'd made some mistakes there, so it kind of wasn't really true, but you can see that and I had one brigade left here, so I had 3 French brigades fully engaged around here, essentially all around here, and there was only 1 or 2 battalions of the King's German Legion had come up here. 1 or 2 British battalions were still in reserve. The rest were all fully engaged. So that was the amount of losses. So if we have sort of 40 losses at game turn 12, you can see that at the end of the game, the Allies losing 20 for being fully committed. They're going to be well near their demoralisation level. And this scenario is one on demoralising your foe, or if at any point the French actually managed to take the hex of Hougoumont. So it's vital, this commitment, and the French start with non-committed. They have 4 they could commit likewise. Again, the Anglo-Allied, taking my lessons from the last game, they might want to uncommit one of these, deactivate them. That has to be within certain conditions, but I think it's quite possible from the start. Once you're in the thick of it, you're going to have to disengage that battalion, bring it well back before you can deactivate it. So that's a definite decision to make. And you see it's really interesting already. This is kind of the core of this system in the sense of novelty from other systems. Is this brigade commitment and deactivation, when to hold your reserves for how long and when to commit them in. And here it's like, do you actually bring some back out into reserves, or do you send everyone into the fray from the beginning? So interesting stuff. We're about to start the first turn, and another thing with this system that's very interesting is the sequence of play. You see, you start with French command, then French rally, and then you go to the Allied facing and march, then French shock. Then you have reciprocal artillery and infantry, so the fire phase is in the middle of the turn. Then the Allied get their command and rally, and then the French get their facing and march, and then the Allied shock. So you can see each side's activities are interwoven with the others, with reciprocal firing at the heart of the turn, and alternate shock combat phases towards the edges. Very interesting weaving of effects, each side's effects in. So there's not so much downtime, and I haven't really sort of gathered the implications of it. Somebody who's better at flat analysis for me could look at that and say, so this means that because the Allied shock straight after the French march, and vice versa, before and after the fire, this implies certain things. The intent was that to embody the particular situation, this battle. It wasn't intended as a sequence of play fit for all all Napoleonic battles, but this particular one where the British are on the defensive and the Anglo-Allied on the defensive and French are on the attack. So the French can move up in their march phase, but the Allied get shock first. And then similarly, when the Allied make a movement, the French get a pounce on them for straight away. So maybe I'll take the first turn and just go through what decisions were made in respect to that. Okay, I thought I'd try talking us through a turn so that one can see how it plays out. The first is the French command phase. Now within the command phase, the French player decides whether to commit or deactivate reserve forces, these uncommitted brigades. Also any cavalry charges would be announced. I don't know anything really about that yet. And then could be important in this scenario is ammunition depletion is checked, and that's important in that skirmishers, when they roll a 6, which is often the only roll they're going to get a hit on unless there's many of them stacked together, they become undepleted unless they can trace as path, I think it's 5 hexes to a parent battalion. It might even be less. Now that's normally not going to be a bother, except that Ouvremont, let me see if I can just zoom in a bit more there. You can see it has this thick black line which is impassable. So there's 2 hex sides at the back there which are passable. So they can only trace artillery supply through there. Now what's probably going to happen is you'll get a big stack. You can have up to 9 skirmishers in a hex. I think I had 7 in my last game at the height, and stacked in there, so 700 maybe 900 men actually in the farmyard, and it's the French will have a tough time getting at them through the impassable hexes. They can't go through there, so they want to go around the other side, get them out low on ammunition, and in that way they can take them out quicker. It didn't quite happen in my last game, but so that ammunition supply will be checked at this point. I haven't, but for this game term, what I'm going to do is just activate the 1st Brigade of the 6th Division of the 2nd Corps. So Rier's 2nd Corps, must zoom out again. Okay, so here's relay there, and when we activate him, basically you plonk, when you activate a brigade, you plonk down the leader somewhere within, so it needs to be within the command span, 4 hexes of one of the units of that brigade. That's fine. So I'm going to put him there, and then at the same time I can also bring in someone else, which happens to be Joseph Bonaparte here, because he's part a 6th Division leader, not any particular brigade, so he can aid in rallying and also say commanding the odd battalion that is out of Baudouin's command span, which in fact is 2, so he's going to reach only to there. Each of these units is a battalion, by the way. I don't think I said that before. So that is now committed. We're going to save off committing any more until an hour or a couple of hours have passed, so that we don't pay that cost mentioned earlier. So that's the French command phase over. Now there's the French rally phase. There's no one to rally. Rally's quite sort of straightforward and quick. Now we go to the Allied facing formation phase. So a battalion can either change formation or facing, not both. It could also, at the same time, either of those release skirmishers in this phase. And then after that will be the Allied march, i.e. movement phase. So I'm going to have to make a decision. I think what we're going to do is break down perhaps a whole guards unit and throw some men straight in as this main attack's coming up. But I think that's kind of like a no-brainer when they see what's arrayed against, and knowing how it pans out. So it's important to note that you have to be committed to change facing and formation and detach skirmishers as well as move. You don't have to be committed to return fire or to commit shock, i.e. hand-to-hand, sort of adjacent combat. But because all of these are committed, they can all release some skirmishers at this point. Maybe that's why they are in that released, committed position now. So I have released the skirmisher from here, here, here and here. These three I have kept as they are. Now some people deride this system because they say it's just a race to release as many skirmishers as you can and then flood your enemy with these pesky varmints. Now I don't think that is necessarily so. I'm erring on the side of goodwill for the design and kind of like caution, reserving my judgment because, okay, I'm not nowhere an expert. I've only had one play, but what for a start, there's only so many skirmisher units, so it's not everyone that can do it. But that's not really here nor there. The main 2 points I've found with the skirmishers is no, sorry, just 1 point. I think there was another, I've forgotten it. But anyway, the main point, the reason why I didn't release from here is that when you release a unit, you go down a step. So you can see that's as such a step loss counter because he's already released the skirmisher. So these ones have gone down 2 steps. Now each unit has 3 ratings. And on the left is the strength, in the middle is their effectiveness rating, and on the right there is the movement. Now as you lose strength points, even from detaching skirmishers, the middle rating, the effectiveness rating, goes down by the same number. And you have to be careful because that represents your morale as well as like sort of a combat differential in combat. So yes, if you release lots of skirmishers, then your parent units become very weak comparatively, and that can be important because of those skirmishers can be quite effective if stacked in big stacks. Generally their firepower is very weak, which is to say they only get a hit very infrequently. Whereas the battalions, when in line formation particularly, their firepower is great. They're nearly always going to deliver a hit, unless of course they're very weak in strength. And then similarly, their battalions are quite fragile in the sense that they can deliver a hefty punch, but they can disintegrate quite more quickly. They might rout or disorder a lot more quickly than a kind of more than a skirmish formation. So you do want to think twice about depleting your battalions by sending out skirmishers here and there. The other point was that, okay, if you have elite battalions, then you can break them completely down to skirmishers. A class 2 battalion can only release 1 skirmisher, so you only have so many options. And class 3 battalions, there aren't any in this scenario, but the worst class, they can't release any skirmishers, so not every battalion can do it. Sorry about the focus there. Okay, so now I haven't changed any facing and I haven't changed any formation, so it's, for example, unlimbering artillery, etc., because they're all kind of optimally faced and prepared for this first game turn. This artillery unit is going to be moving here to cover these 2 sides of Ourmont, and then we will have some horse artillery coming up around the flanks to hopefully deliver fire across the attackers. So, and then these 2 horse artillery in the middle, I'm not sure what to do with them yet, but there they are, ready to charge this way or that. So that is the Allied phasing formation phase, and now the Allied march phase. So I'll get on with that. It's very easy because in this system basically everything costs 1 point to move into, unless it doesn't, in which case it costs 1 extra point. So for example, orchards cost 2 points, crossing a wall or an abatis or a hedge, whichever they are, they're treated all the same, is another extra point. So if you cross from a clear hex into an orchard hex over a wall, that's 3 movement points. It's very easy to remember and to manage. And then skirmishers just move, have every hex costs them 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's straight in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's going there. Oh yes, and it costs another movement point to walk uphill, except for skirmishers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skirmishers don't have facing either, so I didn't really have to worry about that, but it just looks neater if they follow the others. So then the horse artillery, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The foot artillery have a 3 movement rate. Now stacking is in effect kind of at all times, but that horse artillery can move through that battalion's hex. 1, or else he has to go through the woods, so that's 1, 2, 3, and then uphill 4, 5, 6. And then we got these two. Let's move them up. Preparation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you use road movement rate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you become disordered, which is easy to recover from as long as you're not next to an enemy. So again, it's just quite easy way of organising that road formation. And then you're going to move him onto the road. 1. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1, 2, and I think we'll just move these all forwards. 1, 2, 3. They're all in column formation at the moment. I would flip them with a movement rate of 4. I'd flip them to line later. That gives them a movement rate of 3. Those ones I'll keep back, but these ones will be coming forward. 1, 2, 3. Not enough to move up there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So you get the general picture. That's the Allied march phase. Now we go to the French shock phase. So if any units are adjacent, the French can choose to shock its unit by unit. You cannot gang up, say 2 hexes onto 1, but every unit in the hex counts against one other hex. So we don't have that at the moment. Now we go to the reciprocal artillery fire phase. So you just roll, it's 50-50 who goes first. In this case, the French are going to go first. None of their artillery are unlimbered, and it's the same on the Allied side, so that doesn't happen. Then we go to the reciprocal infantry fire phase. That's the same. One side will go first, do all theirs. In this case, that will be the Allies, but there's only a range of 2 for musketry, so that again is not coming into effect. Now we come to, so you can see what would happen is that the French will make some command decisions at the beginning of the turn. Then the Allies will move and sort out formations. Then the French would get a push against them if possible. Then there's firing from both sides. And now the Allies have to make some decisions, command decisions. And I am going to remove Mitchell, so I'm deactivating his brigade. These superior commanders can stay on. I'll have to just check the rules that he fulfills the requirements, but that at least is my intention. And also we might be declaring cavalry charges and checking for supply. Okay, I can't actually deactivate them yet because it happens at the end of the hourly command phase. So just after you've paid that cost for them being activated, you can deactivate them. So that will be happen in the next turn. Okay, so then we go to the Allied rally phase, and something I didn't mention before is if anybody's within, if any Allied unit was within a French cavalry charge zone, which would have been declared earlier in the turn, then they have to check for morale. But we won't have that in this scenario, so Allied rally phase, nothing needs doing there. Now the French formation facing change phase, and they are going to release some skirmishers from their light brigades here. So what we have here now is 6 battalions of light infantry, all broken down to skirmishers. Now immediately a lot of people can say, oh, but that never happened, and it wouldn't have happened, and doctrine wouldn't have allowed it, or some such. I don't know exactly what people's complaints with this system are, but I think it's important to remember design for effect, because as I understand it, this area here is quite wooded in itself. It's not depicted on the map, it wasn't necessary for whatever reason. So for example, you could consider that, okay, these battalions are moving up as battalions, but in effect, as they move through this wooded area, and also as they start engaging the broken and obstructing terrain all around here, those battalions are going to lose their cohesion. So you might consider that this battalion has not actually been ordered to break into skirmish units, but effectively that is what happens as they move up through the terrain and start engaging ferocious skirmish fire from the defenders here. So I think that is another important consideration. Essentially what you get with it, when you say if you have a whole battalion, you've broken it down to skirmishers, is lots of individual units that will always retain quite a high morale, but will not have such an effective combined firepower as that battalion would have if it was in line formation. And so you could say, okay, so you've got a battalion that is broken, it's still a battalion, but it's lacking cohesion. Its firepower is not as effective, yet because it's still from an elite battalion, as this would have to be, it's not going to lose morale as its pockets of folks get shot up. I don't know, I think you understand what I'm getting at there, to consider this more as a design for effect rather than an actual sort of equality of simulation to reality. That's not necessarily 5 skirmish companies out of that one battalion. Okay, so that's all we're going to do, because again the facing and formations are fine for the rest of these folks. I think I'm going to keep these ones. 1, 2. This one's actually out of command. They're going to stay as they are. I think we'll move them up as formed battalions and form a line as a screen against reinforcements. So then we move to the French march phase. So that's quite easy with these. They will move up. Let's go from here with their leader. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now there's no zones of control in this game, but if you're within the minimum range fire zone, which in the case of musketry is 1 hex and artillery is 2 hexes, and then you move out of a hex, you will get fired upon as you do it. Kind of a reaction fire. Now this stack I'm going to move here, so they're going to be trading shots and trying to burst through there. Rie, I'll move here to bring that unit into command. Okay, so the first line are moving up that way. These ones are coming through. I'll leave a gap for possible routing units. And those ones waiting in support. Okay, then these ones can move up. Bonaparte I'd better leave back there for now. Don't want him to get lost at this point. 4. He was in command. Okay, these could possibly go into extended line, but that will have to be later. And he's got movement of 6, that was 5 to there, he can go to there. The leader to keep them in command. Okay, then we have got some horse artillery here. Now I just have to consider this, because if I move them here, then these will get a movement upon them before they can run limber. Artillery can actually unlimber. I forgot that you can change facing in the movement phase, and you can't normally change formation, but artillery can unlimber in that. So I'm going to do that here. And I forgot that they have to have an artillery crew counter with them. Okay, I've actually moved them back here to give them some cover from marauding skirmishers. So that's the end of the French march phase. There's no one else. Oh yeah, so you don't have to commit artillery, they can automatically move. 6, I'll just bring these ones up. And in my experience, these are not going to be so useful around here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, coming up this way too. So now we have the Allied shock phase. So these units here could shock attack these, but the current odds they're not going to. They're just going to be automatically routed. So really they will want to move back as soon as they can. Then we move to the game turn phase, and that's it. That is a game turn. Truncated as this one was, but there we go. So this video has been quite long enough. I better stop it here, and I'm going to carry on playing this game and I'll come back to it when we get some more shock and fire at an interesting point. But before I go, I thought I'd just mention that now we start nominally turn 12, but the second turn of this scenario, which is an hourly turn. So at this point, the French, and we start with the French command phase. So they might well activate another brigade. I guess not, because there's been no movement from the Allied. and then halfway through the phase the Allied will be able to deactivate one of theirs. However, it was one here. Where was it here? They might not want to do that now. They might see this as a threat coming towards them. We shall see. Okay, I couldn't resist just continuing. It's still the beginning of the second turn, and we've had the Allied formation in their march phase. And essentially what happened was that Mitchell, with the 4th Brigade from 4th Division, moved his fellows back here so that they can deactivate, go into reserve. Now, De Platte, the King's German Legion, is moving up here. They're going to fill holes here, and we have artillery have moved up into position here, defended by skirmish units underneath. We have artillery deployed here and here, and Byng has moved forward. He has with his brigade, the 2nd Guards, and this battalion he's moved forwards. The other battalion he sent it into Hougoumont itself. And I think that goes with my argument of design for effect, because you could easily say that a battalion counter moving into Hougoumont is completely unrealistic, because a battalion would not retain battalion formation in the sense of an organised march column or infantry line. So in moving through, especially this terrain, a covered way there, and then into the chateau itself, it has to be broken down into smaller segments, whether they are ordered as companies, or not. That is the effect. They're still elite there, but they don't have the cohesion, the concentrated firepower of a formed battalion. So essentially, instead of saying these are skirmish units, you could just say that's now an unformed battalion, if you prefer to put it that way. So Maitland with the 1st Guards has moved forwards a bit here, and I think I forgot to move this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're going to deploy there. Ready to fire if these activate at all. And these green troops, they are Netherlandish troops. A couple of them moved back so as not to bear the full brunt of the shock there. So we know that firing has been going on, just that there have not been 100 casualties yet, which is the level at which this game starts recording. Oh, I also forgot to move this artillery. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to put him in road formation, which means he's now disordered, but he doesn't have to pay the cost of moving up the hill. Okay, so I just wanted to show that. The French have paid the first point on army morale, so that's 1 for their committed brigade, and that means that they're now on 69 army morale. The Allied still on 65, but they're going to pay for it at the end of this turn. It really is marvellous for the French that this is all one brigade. That's the other brigade of the 6th Division. Lucky them, hey? Just 3 regiments, in fact, but one very big light one, one's not so big light one, and then another just line regiment. So I don't see any point really in not splitting it, except that this might be a rather off-putting long video for some. So we now move the French shock phase after the Allied march stroke movement, otherwise known as movement phase. There is no shock, there's no one adjacent. These fellows wisely moved back, so we go to reciprocal artillery fire phase. So I thought we were going to get some fire, so it'd be nice to see that. So on evens, the French go first, which is the occurrence. Now I think they've only got that one deployed. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the question is, does he want to spend and our ammunition point on that. The French have 8 and the Allies have 6 for each gun. I think he probably does, but I need to check observation, otherwise known as line of sight. The way that works is I count all the same level as the firer or the target highest hexes, inclusive 1, 2, 3, 4 towards, in this case, the target, and all the same level as the target or that with the fire, whichever one it is, hexes, which in this case is 1, and then the height difference. So I times that 1, the same level, number of the same level lowest, by the height difference. So in this case that's 1 times 1, and then I subtract it from that number of the highest, same level highest, which was 4, and I have to get 0 or less for there to be observation. So in this case there is no observation, they are in a hollow as such, or these guys are on the other side of that slope, or an undulation, however you want to see it. So there's no line of sight there, no observation. And that's it for the French. So now for the Allied. So similarly, that gun can do nothing. It's only going to have, it's only going to have adjacent fire. And this one is also at a lower level. It's going to be the same. So those guns are terribly sighted. Fortunately they're cavalry, so they might be able to move themselves quite quickly. Then these guns, now that's a straight line. There's a little valley here. These units will not block being in that valley. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now 5 is actually long range. So on the firepower table, I won't move the camera just to show this, but essentially what I go is, okay, we've got maximum range artillery, and check how many gun points. If this one's firing, that is 6. So at maximum range, that just chips over into the next better column. Then I go down. Within that column, there's always 3 class, like I mentioned before about the class of infantry, between 1 to best, 3 to worst, the same for guns, and they are effectiveness rating of 3, so that's the middle, so it's class 2. That's right, yeah, so we go, so that's the middle column of the second column, as it were, subdivision of column. And then we look at the target class, which in this case is a formed column unit, and he's going to fight the one with Baduin in hopes of killing him too. So that's a target class 1, the best, which tells us that that is always going to hit, and there's a possibility on a 6 it would get 2 strength points, otherwise it would just be 1. So wow, that's great. Gosh, didn't get that kind of opportunity in my last game. The only question is this obstructing terrain, at what level is it? Now because it's the actual depictions in the lower hex, I'm going to count it as on that lower slope, so it won't be blocking that line of sight, the observation. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm going to allow it here. I can't be bothered to check at the moment, I'll do it in a bit. I just want to move forward here. So what was it, 1? I mean, I might have to take this back after checking, but we can get a look at how these things work. So that's 1 strength point lost. So he goes down from a 5 to a 4 because he's taken. Let's check for the leader first. So that wasn't minimum range. So on a 6, he's a gunner. No, he's okay. Well, it's actually the leader's not gunner. It's a leader and his staff, so they become depleted. so they're less effective and then they could get taken off. But they're okay, but this unit now has to take a morale check. So its effectiveness rating goes down 1 as well, so instead of 4 it's 3. And I rolled a 3, he's got a leader with him, he's going to be fine for morale. So not disordered. And then we have the other artillery unit, fire. Can he fire at the skirmishers? Yes, I believe he can. Okay, similar situation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Same start, but the target class difference now because we are skirmisher. I believe there's no difference, even though it's 5 of them in the hex. If it was 9, then it would become a mass target, no matter if they're skirmishers or not. So this is harder to hit. So they're not formed up in a line or a big column. They are scattered throughout those 100 yards. So it's only going to get 1 strength point loss on a 5 or 6. We rolled a 6, so instantly one of those goes. And the fellows have to check for morale. We just roll for the next topmost unit. So I must mark a loss to the French. In fact, 2, wasn't it? And 3, that's fine for the morale of the rest of the fellows in that hex. I must remember to put shot markers down. These artillery, but I've just moved forward for 1, 2, 3, 4. That one could potentially fire, but it won't waste it yet. So that is the reciprocal artillery fire phase. Now, better zoom out a bit, and for the reciprocal infantry fire phase, the Allies happen to go first. Now he's within maximum range of him, so it's the same thing as the artillery fire. My phone told me I had a maximum recording time, so it cut me out. I think it's going to keep doing that now. But anyway, so column or skirmisher formation or maximum range infantry. So they're on the worst column there. The target class is skirmish, so they're only going to hit on a 6. No. Okay, now I believe he can fire out at them. Same thing. And these ones can't because they've got woods in the way. So that's all of the Allied fire. And then the only ones then that can fire back are these and these against them. Each hex fires separately. So we've got 4 in there, haven't we? And 5 in there. They're still both going to only hit on a 6. And then that will be the same from that one there. Especially because this is in soft cover, is still hitting on a 6. No, so you see, it's quite simplified, straight abstracted on the fire, but it works well. Essentially, if you're going to get 100 men as casualties, it's going to be recorded, and the worst that can happen is it will be on a 6, or really not at all, no chance. And there's no modifiers to that, it's all on the table, which is nice. I mean, it's all on the way the table is arranged, the columns and the rows. So that is the fire phase. And now we go to the Allied command phase, and I really think I must stop. The French move up. Their unformed battalions here. They've moved an artillery unit under here. It's not unlimbered yet. Horse artillery unlimbered there, covering the flank. And they've got 3 battalions moved up here. So effectively, they are screening this side against reinforcements coming directly in there. And they're going to try and cut off around here and then work their way around the back. and next turn they're going to have to, I think, release this brigade to bring it up as a back line, a backstop against this. These ones have got to go into line formation as soon as possible. They just wanted to move up, get there before these ones came down, for example, or before the one behind came down. So that's the situation at the end of the second turn. The Brits have the Anglo-Allied have reinforced en masse into Hougoumont and essentially brought artillery forward and sending forward King's German Legion, and the similarly the French are massing. They're forming a screening line here, artillery on the flanks. They brought an artillery up here to start. It won't be much effective against Hougoumont itself, but any reinforcements coming in down here, and they're going to sweep away those skirmishers there with their unformed battalions.